I don't know about you, but the last couple of weeks have been, quite stressful. And with the news cycle and everything going on, it's been difficult at times to find joy. Joy in things that we hope will make the world a little bit better, either for the communities that we live in or more personally for us. And after some of the news that we've been covering in the last week, specifically the political aspects, I felt that it might be a good time to come back to something a little more grassroots, a little more tangible to the whole cleaner, greener, safer and smarter thing that this whole channel is built on. And so, even though we only made a video a couple of weeks ago on it, it's time for another update on HEMA, our Vectrix VX-1 maxi scooter. If you watched the last video that we did with HEMA, you'll know that I removed the old nickel metal hydride battery packs. And just to confirm this, because some of you had questions in the comments section, yes, we loaded them into the back of my F-150 Lightning pickup truck. And yes, we took them to be recycled at an official nickel metal hydride recycling facility not far from here. We have sent them off to be dealt with properly. They're not going to end up in a landfill, which is good. But since we removed those batteries, I've been kind of busy and I want to give you some good news for the project. So I haven't ordered the charging parts yet that I need. I've decided to go with not one, but two charging units, which will go at the front of the bike behind that front trim panel. They're going to be two 3.3 kilowatt chargers that will be paired together to operate as a 6.6 kilowatt charging setup. I'm going to put a J1772 inlet somewhere on the bike. I haven't figured out yet where that's going to be. And then I will install Nissan Leaf battery packs down here to give me somewhere between 9 kilowatt hours and 15 kilowatt hours of usable capacity. I'm being a little vague because I really want to buy the Generation 4 Nissan Leaf cells. Unfortunately, they are difficult to get hold of. They're also a little bit more costly, but if I can get hold of them, they should give me 15 kilowatt hours theoretical of storage capacity, probably be closer to 12 kilowatt hours real world, which should give me well over 100 miles of real world range, maybe even as much as 150 miles. And hopefully that will all be completed by the summer. But if you remember, when HEMA became ill and I had to take HEMA off the road, there was some concerns about the rest of the bike. You might notice that we're missing a tail light right now, but you might also notice that I have a power supply sitting on here. It's currently set to 120 volts, which is about middle of the battery pack if it was actually charged and there was a battery pack in there. Just to be clear, I have connected up a positive and negative lead to the main positive and negative leads inside the bike. To make sure that I don't blow anything on the control circuitry, I actually turned it on when this was set to 0 volts and then slowly increased the voltage to charge up the capacitors inside the bike's controller circuitry so they didn't blow. But now, if I put the key in, the bike will go through its startup sequence. It's a proper startup sequence. It is exactly how it should work. The horn works, the lights work, the indicators work, everything else is good. So the only thing that's broken at this point, or the only problem that I know of right now, is A, it needs a new battery pack, and B, it needs new chargers. Now, I don't know for sure if I need to replace the charger. I might just need to put a new battery pack in and put a battery management system in. But to be honest, if I'm going to put 15 kilowatt hours of storage in the bike, or even 9 kilowatt hours of storage, I really need something a little bit beefier than the stock 1 point something kilowatt onboard charger. That charger is not designed to work with J1772 out of the box. You have to use an adapter and it's a little clunky. And additionally, those chargers that are in this bike have a tendency to die. So I might as well cut my losses and put a new one in. So as you can see, Everything else works according to specifications, which is wonderful. Let me turn off this voltage here, and how I'm going to do that is I'm just going to gradually slow down the amount of power going into it. The voltage is dropping here. Make sure that the current is turned right down. I'm going to wait until the voltage here reads 0. It's down to 26 volts, 24 volts, 23 volts, 22 volts. I'll keep talking and we'll disconnect it when we're done. But the important thing to note here is that all of the errors that we were seeing were due to the thermistor circuits, the temperature sensors, having issues. And the circuits, you remember I showed you that little blown circuit board? Because that was not working as intended, there were currents flowing through that shouldn't have been, and that was backfeeding power, I think, to various components within the bike so that it didn't actually turn off as it should. So this is now reading 0 volts all the way through, so I'm just going to disconnect that. I picked this up online. It's a really nice power supply, not ridiculously expensive. It was about $80 US. It can provide up to 120 volts even, at 0 to 3 amps. So it's just enough power to power a system like this and make sure it works. The other thing I want to talk about now is, as you can see, I've taken things apart. So this is the rear trim panel, and I had to take this off because, as you might see, the rear light is not where it's supposed to be. Removing this, I'm not going to lie, was a pain in the bum. I did it last weekend. You have to undo all of these trim screws and gently lift everything apart and separate everything. And you have to remove the seat to gain access to the rear to pull the light out. And then this is the rear light on the Vectrix. Now these are super difficult to get hold of because they're not made anymore. That's obviously your external glass. And then in here is your reflectors. And then here is your printed circuit board with 13 very high powered LEDs printed on a flexible PCB. This bit then connects to the control board inside the light. And that is what makes this light work. Now, the silly thing here is that most motorbikes at the turn of the last century, remember this was built in 2006, 2007, 2008, most of the motorbikes on the road may have just used incandescent lights or just regular old light bulbs. Some may have used LEDs, but they were normally driven through traditional electronic circuits. This bike has a dedicated custom two-sided printed circuit board. So this is where the signal comes from the bike. There's a cable back there. And then here you plug in the ribbon connector to the LED lights. So far, so good. The problem is, and the reason that this is off, is because right here on the circuit board, right where my little finger is a very small MOSFET that has blown. It's basically like a power switch. And it has blown because there is a known bug with this bike and all Vectrixes, as far as I can tell, or all of the VX1s, where if you turn the bike on and there is a rush of power when you turn the main headlights on and you have the brake lights activated, there is a current drop in the 12-volt system. That then causes, sorry, not a current drop, there's a voltage drop. That makes more sense. There's a voltage drop, and then the circuitry tries to compensate for the drop in voltage by drawing more current, because power is voltage times current, right? So because the voltage drops, this circuit then tries to pull more power than it's rated for, and this little MOSFET here is known for blowing. And replacing this tiny little component on here is reasonably simple if you're half decent at soldering. I'm not half decent at soldering. I'm kind of passable at soldering. So I'll need to be putting this in my solder station at some point and replacing the component. But people I've talked to on the Vectrix master techs, as it were, that have worked and known the bikes for years, all tell me that I need to use a more powerful than stock MOSFET, one that's rated to about 10 amps, and then it won't blow anymore, and then the lights will be fine and work. Now, one of the challenges here is that the plastic for this is kind of fragile. So I want to show you on this little piece here, there are clips that this cover fits in, and it goes in like that. And it was sealed in place when I took it apart. I had to pull the kind of the seal off. And some of the ABS plastic that this is made of, it's nearly 20 years old, it's brittle, and it's cracked here and cracked here. So I've got to figure out whether I want to try and use a seal again to seal it back in. We all know a seal door is good. Or maybe I print a replacement part, maybe make a replacement part and use super glue to attach it. But either way, I need to fix that before I put it back on the bike. Luckily, the rest of this works as far as I can tell. And I'm trying really hard not to cover this up too much, because obviously grease from my hands and everything else will eventually get in and make it not quite so good. But if I put this in here and then I show this to you, that's what it looks like when it's on the bike. And then, as you can see, this little circuit board connects like that. And then in the back of this, there is a little holder that you put your circuit board on. So the circuit board actually sits like this in there, and then you plug in your connector on the back. So I need to work and find the right parts for that. Now, I'm not an electronics expert by any means, so if anyone has any recommendations for a good 10 amp capable N-channel MOSFET that I can replace the one that's blown with, I'm all ears. I'm happy for it not to be the same kind of package. You can't really get one that's that powerful that fits in that smaller package, but I'm more than happy to put some cabling on here and maybe put the transistor on a separate board somewhere. There is enough space in the case for me to do that, so that's not a big issue. The other thing I want to show you is this. This is one half of the center stand. It was powder coated. There's some sand coming off of it. It was powder coated in Portland by a local company. They charged me, I think, $150 to powder coat this. It was originally obviously still in bare metal, but they've powder coated it in this nice, not too glossy black. And at some point I need to clean out the rest of the sand. That's a project for a future weekend. And then I'll be able to put this back on the bike, or rather I'll be able to install it on the bike for the very first time. One thing I'm curious about though is whether I should use something like Plastidip on this little bottom piece here to protect this area from being scratched up, because while this is powder coated and powder coating is pretty durable, eventually it will come off. So by putting a layer of Plastidip over the bits that are going to actually hit the road, I might actually be able to preserve the powder coating and then have this removable Plastidip that I can take off and put on. And you can buy some Plastidips that are known for being quite grippy, so that might work pretty well for these particular parts of the stand. Obviously, when you push it down, that's the bit that stands on the ground and supports your bike. The other bit is down by my foot, but I don't think I need to take that off and show you. But I just need to put the springs back on, put the bolt back in that holds everything together, and then bolt it to the bottom of HEMA. And then that means I can work on HEMA and I can test the motor and all these other things without having to break out the hoist that I have, or rather the little the bike stand that I bought a couple of years ago to support this bike when I need to work on it. And I think that center stand is going to be so much easier to use and so much quicker. And also it's going to be really useful here because, as I've noted previously, I've dropped this bike a couple of times because the center stand kind of leans over a long way. Some of our local roads are fairly sharply angled, and it's easy to drop a bike on them if you don't park them just right. Final thing I want your input on are these trim pieces. Now, obviously this trim piece has already been taken off. It's just resting on here right now. But this trim piece and the one on the other side both have some nasty scratches on them. The front of the bike is also starting to show its age. And I've never had trim pieces painted before. Obviously, I've had bodywork done on cars. Some people say, well, you could do it yourself. Other people say, well, you could just get a local specialist to do it for you. And I'm curious as to if I should bother, or if I should just get it working first and then paint it, or if I should go whole hog and put it back on the road with a fresh set of painted panels and maybe get these little chrome effect pieces re-chromed as well and try and restore it to like new status. I'm definitely going to do something to try and clean up these seats because they're a bit grimy and mucky, and I did have to remove this seat panel, and the other seat panel is the other side of the bike. So the seat has already come off, so that's going to be pretty easy for me to do. And potentially I might also consider putting like a heated seat in for me, not necessarily for the passenger, but for the front bit. I think a heated seat might be quite nice. I've also been considering heated grips and also hand guards because A, I don't want to come off the bike and hurt myself, but B, I have circulation issues and my hands get really cold. Even if I'm wearing thick winter gloves on a warm day, I'm known for getting cold hands. And obviously on a motorbike, if your hands are really, really cold and you can't feel them, it's not ideal. So I was thinking about putting basically hand guards on this scooter and then maybe getting those painted as well as the whole setup from this. You can get them really cheaply. It's not going to break the bank. And hopefully the bike will be back on the road soon. But if you know someone locally in Portland, Oregon or nearby that would be willing to help me with these panels, or maybe you'd like to help me paint them yourself, reach out because it's something I've not done before. I know I'm not very good at painting other things, so I'm assuming that I'm not going to be great at doing a DIY paint job. And up here in the mountains, we have so many stink bugs and flies during the summer that I would worry about painting outside because then I'd end up with really nice paint with bugs, which is not really nice as you're riding along. Anyway, I will let you know how this goes. I'm hoping to do that before the next video. I'm hoping to order the charging units and the battery management system. I'm waiting on the vendor to get back to me with shipping costs for that. Obviously, with everything going on with the US federal government right now, we don't know if tariffs will be levied on it or not. And if you have a lead on a Nissan Leaf battery pack, do reach out because I would really like to put the better, longer distance, newer, more capable Nissan Leaf cells in here. Talking about flies, one just came up and looked at the bike there. Yes, I could put original Nissan Leaf cells in, but the problem is those original Nissan Leaf cells are now, some of them, over 10 years old, and they have lost their capacity. The Nissan Leaf was one of the EVs that did notoriously lose capacity. If I had my druthers and I had the ability to, I would put Volkswagen ID.3 battery modules in, but there were never any over here that are compatible with this bike. While you can buy Volkswagen ID.4 battery modules, they are all built with the 8 Series 3 parallel configuration. And in order to get the right voltage and also fit into the available space in this bike, I need the 12 Series 2 parallel configuration, which I believe was only ever sold in Europe. So maybe you are someone watching who knows how to convert the 12 Series 2 parallel, or rather the 8 Series 3 parallel cells into 12 Series 2 parallel cells. And if you are, please reach out, because if you can help me do that, I'll just go ahead and buy ID.4 cells. That will then give me close to 20 kilowatt hours, and the job will be a good one.
Thanks
Thanks for joining us today. And if you've got thoughts, make sure you leave them in our Discord chat room, on our Patreon page, down below, or you can reach out to us on Mastodon or Blue Sky. Thanks to the amazing list of people scrolling by on your screen right now. They're part of the massive community of supporters who make this channel possible, helping us through Patreon and YouTube, covering our bills, paying our team, and helping us to remain 100% independent. If you'd like to join them and see your name listed here, just follow the links below. We've got options available across a range of different price points from just $1.50 US a month. A massive welcome to our newest supporters: Taylor Knox, Skyel, Andy, Gilardo Orzoko, Herb Suvesh, Dave Dittman, Christopher, Sean, Douglas Hill, Patrick Adams, How Many Wills Will Will Smith Smith If Will Smith Wills, Eridoon, Beazle Bob, William Hoffman, Cicadas Sing to hide existential dread at their short lives, Alan Benton, CC, Robert Howell, Mr. Hockey, and John DePoy. To join the list and get your shout out, become a paid Patreon member for your moment of fame, and you can even give membership to someone else. If you'd like to support us with a one-off donation, you'll find links below to make Ko-fi and Bitcoin donations, and we even have an old-fashioned PO box you can reach us at for the time being, addressed below. You'll also find links to our swag store, and if you're someone who has to shop on Amazon, please consider using our affiliate link so we get the commission, not Jeff Bezos. So we can continue to focus on making our content even better and reduce burnout, we're being a little freer with our release days, but plan on dropping new content every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday on our main channel, plus something over on Sunday on TE Take 2. If you want more, the algorithm that hates us thinks you should watch this video, but this video is one we'd like you to check out. Be awesome, be kind, be intentional, and don't forget to resist. Keep evolving.